Well, come here in this row. Yeah, because it's empty. I hate that. And this girl, are you going to be a Lone Ranger up there? It's an improvement. Okay. All right, today you have a great fortune of meeting a success story. How many of you are marketing merchandising students here? Raise your hands, high. But I know mostly fashion design. Raise your hands. And this shocking pink red scarf, come down to the first row. What's happening today? Everyone's late. I'm funny, right? I do this every Monday because, you know, when I went to school, if the teacher said, come down to the lower amphitheater, we did it the first time. You never had to beg. You respected the teacher. Because this teacher works very hard to bring to you people who will help you for your future. So the least you could do is fill the empty seats. If you were up here one day when you're a success and you come and speak, would you like to talk to empty seats? Tell me. So come on down and fill up these seats. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You're too tired to move? Please move down. Right here, it's easy. You don't have to climb over anybody. Right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 seats right here. Over here. That's reserved, that one. Over here. And over here. Uh-oh, miss. The two of you. Over here. Over here. Yes, there's room for you right there. Over there, right there. Now that looks beautiful. Okay. The first row in every is the most important. You're there. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, as I said, and I won't make a speech anymore about moving. All right. Today we have an extraordinary success story, because the success of Hilton Hollis, as an FIT graduate in fashion design, he was trained under George Simonton. How many of you are in George Simonton's class? Raise your hands. Oh, you're lucky. You will become a success like Hilton. You have that potential, because he really comes from the fashion industry. Interned, I knew him then, and I was also washing the paintbrush and changing the dirty paint water of textile designers, because that was what happened to me. I became a designer for prints for fabric. So I started from the bottom. Anyway, I'm not going to tell you a big long story, because I want to say a few words about how important it is that you're here to hear from Hilton Hollis, who is now the CEO, creative director of his own company, Hilton Hollis International. And Hilton Hollis was born in Natchez, Mississippi. Are any of you here from the South, Mississippi? Too bad. Okay, because I love the South. He received his FID degree here in design, and his love of fashion was inspired by his grandmother. While he was a student in the this class, right, Hilton? Yes, he met many of the speakers who were designers, like Dana Buchman, John Bartlett, and they all realized how talented he is, because I think after graduation you did some internship for them. But that you went on, and your dream was opening your own company, which came true only 2 years later. And his success is a result of his quiet confidence and passion for perfection. This makes him a presence in our fashion world today. And he was selected to join the world's most famous designers in a fashion event, I remember, at Times Square to celebrate New York City's 2000th. It was a fashion show right in Times Square. It was beautiful. And they were all the famous designers like Oscar de la Renta, and there was young Hilton also selected to present one of his designs. It was beautiful. I remember navy blue, see, satin, long, elegant, beautiful. And this event at Times Square was wonderful. So now he's joined this privately held company, and his collections have been continuously successful in the best shops all over the country. And now I'm leaving the podium, and you won't hear from me this evening anymore, just to thank Hilton. Please, Hilton, take me away. There you are.
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for having me today. Like Alice said, I was here at FIT back in '97, started my career in fashion here at FIT, and did externship with Calvin Klein while I was a student here, and graduated in '99 with a degree in fashion design with a specialization of tailoring. I actually trained under George Simonton, as Alice said. And I just want you to know that the professors here at FIT are very knowledgeable in all their different fields of expertise. And even though as a student you might not think what they're saying is important, I definitely implore you to listen to every single word that they have to say, because these professors are industry professionals. Their expertise is in the field that you've chosen to go into. So it's just very important that you listen to what they have to say. My first job out of FIT was with Dana Buchman. Dana was the founder of the bridge segment of the market industry, and Dana was a tremendous force in the bridge area for a long time. Unfortunately, the economy and the way the market has changed has actually put her out of business. Dana was in business for, I would say, at least 20 years, 25 years, something like that. And I had the opportunity to work with her and really learn about what that segment of the industry is like. Since I did work for her, I also had the interest of designing for that segment. It's a segment that's often not looked at as a positive segment of the market, but because these women who buy these sort of clothes have so much potential money to spend on their clothes, it is probably the most profitable area that you could go into. The thing that I see that's happening in the industry more than anything is there's just an overpopulation of designers out there who are designing for the young 20 to 30-year-old customer. And not to say that that's a bad thing, but I think it's very important that we as designers identify with who we want to design for and choose an area or a niche in the market that is more profitable and look at it more as a business opportunity than just a design opportunity. I also find that this area is a lot harder to design for because you're not only, you have to be modern, you have to be contemporary, you also have to have a designer look to the product, but it can't be overpriced. So rather than going into the designer market or the contemporary market, I chose a market that I felt was more in line with what I wanted to do in the industry. Right now, we sell to about 80 stores in the United States and Canada. We're also in Neiman Marcus. We actually launched with Neiman's for the fall season. We were in 2 of their stores, and because of our tremendous performance at retail, we're actually now in 5 of the stores nationwide. The rollout of all the stores is definitely in the future. I would say that within the next 2 years, I'll probably be in 25 to 30, which is our goal. You know, knowing your customer is the most important thing that I can tell you about being a designer or being in any segment of the market. You really have to know who you're designing for, who you're marketing to, and who you're publicizing to. And by knowing your customer, you can really kind of figure out what you're best at and determine what it is that you need to design to make that customer happy. And knowing their lifestyle and knowing what they do on a daily basis is truly important. I also think another important point to bring up is the whole idea of social networking. And one of the things that we do at Hilton Hollis is we're constantly on Facebook and constantly on Twitter. A lot of the stores that I go to, I have clients that come in and they say, oh, you know, I got your Facebook update, I knew that you were going to be in the store and I just came in to meet you. 9 times out of 10, these customers will come in with no intentions of buying anything, but by the time they leave, they purchase 2 or 3 things. And I think that the way that the market is kind of evolving with the age of the internet is definitely more into a social-based network. I think by socializing on Facebook and Twitter, those are just huge opportunities for you to market your brand and for you to become more aware of what's going on in the industry. Also, I think that believing in what you have to sell is truly important. By marketing yourself in the right way, you can really make a huge impact and a big difference in the area of the market that you choose to go into. I'm going to roll some footage now. If we could roll the video, I want to show you a little bit about what we did for the fall 2009 collection. And this collection was actually inspired by Peter Paul Rubens, the Flemish Baroque artist. As you can see, we used a lot of intricate detailing. The balloon skirt that she's wearing is a French fabric. It's a jacquard out of Paris. I do go to Paris actually twice a year to buy all my fabrics at Première Vision. And most of our fabrics are Italian, French, and Spanish. Another reason why I went into the bridge area and not... Okay. Another reason why I went into the bridge area of fashion is that I wanted to still use beautiful fabrics, but give a great price point. And in bridge, you can definitely still use the Italian, the French fabrics, and hit your price points as you need to for the retail. In some of the other areas of fashion, it's a little bit harder to use the Italian goods or the European goods, unless you're in the designer market. This is one of our looks here that was well received. It's a high neckline. It's another one. This is a French fabric as well. And that's the Flemish Baroque period that we covered for the fall 2009. I'm going to open it up to questions. I think from my past experiences here that everyone has so many questions to ask and I never have enough time to answer everyone. So I'll start taking questions. Does anyone have a question? Yes. Definitely funding is one of the biggest challenges that you're up against. Although I think if you have a great product and you market it in the right way, you can definitely find the money. Money is definitely hard to come by these days because of the economy. But I mean, one of the things that I did as a young designer is I said to myself, you know, I'm never going to present my collection in a way that is less than a multi-million-dollar collection would, or a multi-million-dollar company would present themselves. I always looked at my company as a multi-million-dollar brand and not just a startup company. And I think that's really, really important. When you're going to someone and you're looking for investors, you have to present yourself in a way that is meaningful and, you know, in a way that they'll remember you. And I've probably been in front of 200 investors in the last 4.5 years since I started my business, and I've gotten some investors and some I haven't gotten. You know, we're in a growing phase right now, and I'm always looking for more money. That's one of the things that you'll always find in business is your business can be very good. It can be profitable, but there's always room to grow, and you're always going to need more money and more capital to make it work for you. What's another question? I think someone here had a question.
What are
You mean when I was preparing to actually start the brand? Well, I mean, I actually started in June 2005, and my first collection hit the stores in January 2006. So the time span there was very short. Although I had a vision of what I wanted, my first collection was 30 pieces. Now the collection has grown to about 180 pieces every season. So you can imagine the difference in the scope of what we do now. But it's in demand, so therefore you have to expand whether you like it or not. You know, the first collection that I did, I took probably about 3 months to actually design it. And you know, fortunately, I was working with a really good factory who had great first samples. And I kind of have a unique situation in that one of my business partners is actually in Hong Kong. And I met this individual through a previous job that I had. That's another thing. If you can really kind of grasp on to all the people that you meet throughout your career, they can really help you in the future. So, you know, fortunately, I had this person in Hong Kong that I was able to make samples with, and she just gave me a great product to start. And, you know, I went down to Atlanta. I showed my collection in a showroom there in Atlanta. And I also had, you know, the New York Market Week to deal with. And I pretty much started in a very small room, probably a quarter of the size of the stage. And within 6 months of being in business, I had already expanded into a 2-room office. And, you know, now I have a showroom. And I mean, it's a snowball effect, really. If you have a good product, that's all you need. Of course, you need money, but you also have to have a good product, because in the long run, it's all about the product. If it's strong, you will succeed. Yes, over here. I believe there's definitely room for new talent out there. I mean, I think that there's certain areas of the market that are so not focused on, and you know, if I were going to start a new collection, I'm not really sure what it would be. I know that for me personally, I'm very happy with what I'm doing. I think that there's areas of the market, and that's where a lot of market research comes into play. As a young designer, you should be in the store every single week. I mean, I can't tell you, I have my own company, but I'm at Saks, I'm at Neiman's, I'm at Bergdorf's every single week that I can be, and I'm constantly looking at what other people are doing. What is the price point that they're selling at? What are my competitors doing that I'm not? And what are areas that I could expand in where I could make more money and be more successful with what I do? You know, I stay very true to who I am as a designer, and I think that's very important, but you also kind of have to understand that this is a business. It's not just about designing pretty clothes. It's about selling them at the right price to the right customer at the right time, and being on time with your deliveries, and being, you know, price effective with like your pricing structure, and not overpricing your goods where they're, you know, back to back. You're seeing 2 jackets on a rack next to each other, and one is $200 more than the other, and they look very similar. Then you can't justify that. So that's another thing about being an individual. I mean, you want your product to stand out. So, you know, it's all about being true to who you are as a designer while satisfying the needs of your consumer. Yes. No, right here. Yeah. My first investor was actually a fabric rep who I used here in New York. And that's why I said, like, any person that you meet throughout your career, definitely, you know, pocket their business card, always keep a very good record of who they were when you met them. People like for people to know who they are. And I can't tell you how big my Rolodex, I'm kind of old school, I still have a Rolodex, but it's like this big and there's 1 million business cards in it. And even though I have everything put into our computer system at work, it's like, you really have to have that. You have to be able to know if I need a fur trim, if I need a button, if I need fabric that, you know, is specific to some design that you want to do, where do I go to get it? And I think it also comes down to personality. If you put yourself out there and you let people know what your vision is and what you truly want to do in your life, then people somehow attach themselves to you. If they're smart and if they're keen business people, they're automatically going to say, wow, this guy has something that no one else has that I've seen. And if I'm ever looking for an investor to invest in me, then those are the kind of people that you would go to and say, hey, I have this great idea about a new product, and would you be willing to put up $25,000? Would you be willing to put up $50,000? And really, my business started with a $50,000 investment. And it's grown throughout the years, and fortunately the economy hasn't had that big of an effect on us, because the designer market is really hurting right now because the economy has kind of put a damper on it. Fortunately our products falls into more of the bridge zone, which is like $500 to $900 jackets at retail, and a lot of people are trading down. And my buyer at Neiman's always says, oh, his customers are trading down. It's not really what I like to hear, because I don't think my product is down by any means, but I do understand what he's saying, because the typical woman who's buying Valentino or Dolce & Gabbana, they're now looking for something a little bit more affordable. And the way I look at it is they could buy 2 of my jackets, or they could buy 1 Valentino jacket. So it definitely has helped me in this economy, being in the price zone that we're in. So, yes. Honestly, a huge chunk of it went into the development of the product for the first sample line. And again, I was very fortunate that my factory in Hong Kong, they didn't charge me for the first samples. And they had an idea in their head that I had a product that was viable. So they basically said, if you give us an order, we'll make your first samples for free. And now, because I've kind of proven myself along the way, they don't charge me for samples, which is ideal. Unfortunately, here in New York, that's pretty hard to come by, because the labor costs are so high here. But again, it all goes back to who you meet throughout your career and how you present yourself to them. Because if you present yourself in a positive way and you are 100% sure about your product and about your vision, people will see that and people will identify with it and they'll help you. Yes? Go ahead. Uh-huh. The thing is in order to price a garment correctly, you have to know what the labor costs are involved. And what you don't want to do is you don't want to make a whole, group of product and say, okay, this is my collection, and then have no idea how you're going to produce it. So for me, it was very important that I understand what the labor costs were involved in making the product and how exactly I was going to have it made in the future. I think there is definitely ways that you can go around that. And, if you're a great seamstress and are a great sewer tailor, you can definitely make your first samples and then have someone price it out for you. But honestly, I can look at someone who's a student sewer and I can tell that, whether it's top of the line or not. And when you're trying to get $500 for a jacket or at retail, or $1,000 for a jacket at retail, it has to look exceptional. There's no doubt about it, that it has to look top notch. Yes. Well, I actually, I did take a production class here at FIT, and it wasn't required at the time, but I went ahead and took it because I wanted to learn more about how production worked and how the labor was, kind of figured out. You can usually take your samples to someone and say, okay, this is the sample, this is our pattern, and they can usually lay it out and say, okay, this is how much I would charge you to make this, or a ballpark figure at least. But there's costing sheets that are all about, this is the goods, this is how much they are per yard, this is how much the yield is, these are, the whole breakdown of every single item that goes into that garment. And, something that I never really thought about until I had some really good advisors come along about 2.5 years ago was, okay, yes, I'm costing this garment at a certain amount and I'm getting, you know, a certain margin on the garment, but what about all the overhead? What about all the other things that come into play, which is, you know, warehousing, the pick and pack, like how are you shipping it out to your vendors? You know, all those things have to be costed in as well. And you know, fortunately, I have surrounded myself with good people, and you know, it all comes down to, it's a fine formula, and you just have to be very careful when you're sitting down and realizing, you know, each cost that goes into a garment. Yes. Actually, I have to be honest, I don't design every single piece. You know, it's unfortunate, but my schedule right now is so hectic that I do well if I can actually sit on a plane on my way to California or my way to wherever, Miami, to do a public appearance. If I'm, you know, sketching on a plane, then that's what I get to do. You know, it's sad because you as a designer, you think, okay, I'm going to design every single piece. And when I started my collection, I said, you know, I'm going to be one of those designers that designs every single piece that's on my line, and I want to have my stamp of approval on every single thing. Well, you know, you can have your stamp of approval on everything, but there's no way in the world that you could design every single piece on a collection. If your collection is 180 pieces and you're doing 2 collections a year and you have a PR schedule that's out of control, I mean, there's no way. And you know, fortunately, I've found designers that I really relate to. One of my interns here in the front row is Mariana. She's here from FIT, and she's fantastic. And you know, I'm letting her kind of like get her hands wet with like playing with different designs. And we have another mutual person in the office who is also from FIT, who actually has 4 pieces on my collection for spring, which as a student who hasn't even graduated yet, that's pretty exciting to actually say, you know, I have 4 pieces on, you know, someone's collection that sells at Neiman's. And I wish that I had been given that opportunity as a young designer, because my first job at Dana Buchman, I sat behind a computer, you know, 8 hours a day, usually 12 hours a day, because you know, there was no leaving that place. But it's a lot of hard work, and you know, you don't think about all those things when you're a young designer coming out of school, how intense it is, and how you're not always going to be doing what you really love to do, like designing every single day. And if you're fortunate you can get a job like that, I applaud that, because usually as a young designer, there's so many different things that you have to do to prove yourself in a design situation, especially when you're working for a major company. If you work for a smaller designer, you can often do a lot more and get your hands wet a lot more. You know, fortunately, my job after Dana Buchman, I worked for John Bartlett, who at that time was doing a women's wear collection, and John was definitely, he was totally into letting me kind of spread my wings and figure out, you know, what I wanted to do, and he really had just kind of gave me free range to design, which was exciting. Another question? Do I have my own design team? I do. I have actually 3 people that work with me on designing right now, and one of the girl that's been with me for the longest, she's been with me for 4 years, really 6 months after I started the company. She came along, and she's been with me ever since. And you know, she's the type of person that I can leave, you know, I can go on the road to go to make PAs across the country, and for 3 weeks I'll be out of the office, and I know everything is perfect back in the office because of her. And you know, that's the kind of passion you want in your job, that you can actually, your boss can leave you behind, and he knows or she knows that you're doing 100% or 110%, and that when he comes back or she comes back, that everything will be fine, and you know, that I'm in good hands when I know that she's in control of the situation. And I think you had a question. Go ahead. Well, PR is actually very, very important to what we do because, like I said earlier, the social networking has helped a lot, but also PR in general. The more you can reach out to newspapers, magazines, and things like that, the more exposure you're going to get, obviously. Because of the economy, I've actually let my PR firm go for like the last year, and I've kind of taken a step back and said, okay, what do I really need to focus on for the next, year to come? And PR, as important as it is in this economy, a lot of firms are taking a step back and kind of saying, okay, PR, not number one on the forefront right now. So, but as you grow and as you get more exposure in the store level, people start to they realize who you are. As soon as your name hits the paper, they understand who you are, they understand your product, and they go online and they look at your website. Websites, social networking, all very, very important. Also, be careful about what you put on websites because, your name is everything that you have as a designer. And you want, like I said, you want to present yourself in a way that's very positive, that's very true of your vision and true of who you are as a brand. So that's a really, really important point that I can't say enough. I've had designers that come and apply for jobs with me, and one of my people that works in my office, she loves to go on MySpace and Facebook and look these people up. There's so many people out there that lost a job just by what they say on their websites. So, just be very careful about how you present yourself. Yes. Well, I've had some serious milestones, and I always look back and I say, well, why did I have such a great experience doing that? And, I think that, for one, the people that have been, the people that I've been in contact with, first of all, the people here at FIT are tremendous. Alice is great. She's got such a great network of people that she knows, and she's willing to introduce you to every single one of them. One of the biggest things that I learned here at FIT is that, you're given so much. You're given so much at your doorstep, but unless you take the opportunity to take it in, then what's the point? You have designers that come here all the time. You have every opportunity in the world to come up afterwards and say, hi, it was great hearing you speak. And I'm not asking for you guys to bombard me at the end of this, speech, but what I'm saying is take the opportunities that are given to you and take full advantage of them. I can guarantee you, when I was a student and I was taking this class, every single designer that came here, I came up to the podium afterwards and I introduced myself and I asked for a business card. Usually they had their assistant with them. I would start talking to that person. It's all about a network. And the New York fashion industry is so small. You never meet a stranger because no matter who it is that you're meeting, you'll see that person again in some way. I can't tell you how many times I've actually met people in the industry and I thought, oh, I'll never see them again. Well, guess what? 6 years down the road, you run into them again, and usually they're the VP of a company that you might want to work for. So it's just very important to keep that kind of social networking, it's just really important. Yes? Of what? I am a huge Narcisco Rodriguez fan. I just think what he does is so understated and so beautiful, and the way it's produced is fantastic. I've always been a big fan of Oscar de la Renta. I think he's a brilliant American designer. And there's a lot of young, talented designers out there. I think the more I grow as a designer, the more I look to the classics, though. I think Valentino is fantastic. I like the classics. I like the classics, but with a twist. How do you take something that's classic, but yet make it modern and make it wearable and understandable? And I think that's the biggest key to being successful right now in this industry, is that what can you give people that they don't already have, but you're giving them something that's modern enough where they know that they're, you know, getting something that's cutting edge. It's something that's, that when they put it on, they feel special, but they don't feel like they're wearing a costume. And they know that they can pull it out of their closet next year and throw it on with a pair of jeans. Maybe they don't wear it the same way, but they wear it a different way, and they, you know, they find value in that. They find a comfort factor with it. So as a designer, you know, you really have to figure out what it is that you do well. And if it's being avant-garde, then absolutely be avant-garde. But also understand that it's a product that has to sell at retail, or otherwise you won't be in business. Yes. No, I was actually in a multi-line showroom. And basically, there's a lot of multi-line showrooms in Atlanta, Dallas, Los Angeles, Chicago. I went down because I had a little bit of an understanding of the Atlanta market because my family actually lives there now. And I knew a lot of the stores around there, and I'd been in and I'd talked to some of the buyers and some of the salespeople in the stores, and basically just said to them, you know, I'm coming out with a line. I'd love for you to see it. You know, it's all about, again, networking, figuring out, you know, who your customer is, going to those kind of stores that sell your type of product, and introducing yourself and saying, hey, you know, I've got a new product coming out. Would you like to see it? You know, fortunately, I got into a really good showroom in Atlanta. I've kind of realized that for me, it's more about having a corporate showroom and really kind of figuring out, you know, how you want to present your line. If you're doing something that's a lot, you know, a really, really high-end designer type collection or something that's very avant-garde, a showroom in Atlanta or one of the regions is probably not a good idea for you. Contemporary markets are definitely saturated in Los Angeles and New York, and it's just according to what you're doing, honestly. Yeah. This for the fall '09 season. So we just, I mean, the product at retail has been doing really, really well. I went and did a PA at my first store in Dallas, at Dallas North Park, and we sold out of the first 2 deliveries within, you know, the day that I was there. So it was really a tremendous experience for me. And also, I mean, you know, Neiman's is a fantastic store. I mean, they're one of the best retailers in the world, and I have to tell you, I mean, I felt like a kid going into a candy store and being able to go up the escalator and getting off the escalator and seeing your product on the floor at Neiman's is an amazing experience. And, you know, as a designer, you work so hard and you put yourself into it and your heart and soul, and to actually have someone recognize that and to see that kind of fruition on the floor is a beautiful thing. But, you know, again, it all comes back to what's your product, who are you marketing it to, and what makes you different from anybody else out there. They did, yeah. Well, I mean, I was constantly sending them things. You know, I have a president of sales who has an amazing amazing background. She was the president of Laundry by Shelley Siegel for about 7 years, and she was at Anne Klein, New York. She was a buyer at Saks. So, I mean, she has a huge, you know, she has huge experience in the industry. Fortunately, I was in a showroom in Dallas that has a really good reputation with Neiman's for bringing them really great product. And again, you know, the timing was right, and they had seen the product for 3.5 years. And it took 3.5 years to get it to where it is today. We just had a meeting with Saks last week. I walked the floor with the buyer at Saks New York. And again, it's one of those things. It's a partnership. It's a courtship. It's like you're dating this person, you know, and you have to kind of figure out what the person is looking for. As a buyer, they're going to tell you. They're going to give you clues to what it is that they're missing on their floor and how you would kind of fit into that segment, you know, and how you would be different from anything else that they have on the floor. I think all the buyers out there right now are being very careful about what they buy, and in order to make them feel safe and for them to feel confident about you and your collection, you have to listen to them a lot. I mean, you have to, not to do everything that they say to do, but make them think that you're doing exactly what they're telling you to do. Because they want to be in control. Anyone else? Yes. Go ahead. I'm a jacket guy. I love to design jackets. I mean, one of the biggest strong points of our collection is we use a lot of architectural seaming. And I think that's why I relate so much to Narcisco Rodriguez and like Ralph Rucci. I think they're just brilliant in what they do. And, you know, that kind of sets whatever it is that you're good at and whatever it is that you do. I think there has to be an identification. When someone walks into a room, your product should be noticeable. And, you know, the biggest compliment that I've ever gotten as a designer is I was at an event one night and someone came up to me and said, I know for a fact you designed that gown that she's wearing because it's so Hilton Hollis. And that's the kind of reaction that you want with your clothing. You want people, you know, women want to be complimented. They want to feel good about what they're wearing. And a lot of the things that we do that make our things so different from what's out there is, you know, we pay such close attention to the details that we put in our garments, whether it's a special seam on the back of the garment, you know, because I feel like it's just as important. It's every angle is a part of the design. And, you know, you want people to get noticed when they're entering a room and when they're leaving a room. When they're sitting at a table and you can't see anything except from here up, I mean, you have to think about every single bit of that when you're designing and think about how it functions in the woman's life. Yes. I mean, I have a little bit of a business background. I was actually pre-law for 3 years before I came to FIT. And after interning at a law firm in Boston, I decided there was no way that I was wearing a suit and tie every day to work. So I ended up here, which was the smartest thing I ever did because, you know, as an 8-year-old growing up on a farm in Mississippi, I was sewing, you know, all the other guys were outside playing baseball and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I was inside with my grandmother sewing pillows and doing cross stitch and, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. But to answer your question, I definitely had people that I kind of relied on and went to for advice. I guess the biggest influence has to be my original business partner. And, you know, for him, it was more, he has a great business sense. He doesn't really know about fashion. He doesn't really, you know, need to know all that part of it. But I guess it was more about how to structure the business. And, you know, again, I think it's just who you surround yourself with. And if you surround yourself with the right people, you can get the answers that you need. Yeah. Yes. I actually started out, it was just me for the first 6 months, and I didn't merchandise it the best way, I have to say. I took it to a lot of showrooms, and although they saw the beauty in what I was doing, it didn't necessarily gel together as, you know, now looking back on it, I think, okay, I could have done that so differently, and I kind of had this idea in my head about every piece standing on its own, but how do those pieces work together? And what you want as, you know, what you want your consumer to do is come in and say, wow, I can't live without that entire, you know, thing. Like, I need the shirt that works with the pant, that goes with the jacket, that, you know, and then I can break it up and I can wear that back to a dress and I can wear this back to a skirt. And you know, you want to say to yourself as a designer, where's my consumer wearing this? Where's the customer wearing it? How many different uses out of it can she have? And especially now, I mean, people are looking like they want to buy a dress and know that they can wear it to the opera, to work, on a weekend. You know, they want a lot of use out of it. And that's not to say that every single piece in your collection has to be that, because some pieces are going to stand on their own and some aren't. But you want it there to be some sort of like thing that kind of pulls it all together. Now I have, you know, my president of sales, like I said, worked for Laundry by Shelley Siegel in the sportswear division. She worked at Anne Klein and was a buyer at Saks. She totally gets it, and I kind of just turn to her for all the merchandising advice for the collection. It's from the beginning, it's always my vision for color and for fabrics, and really that's where it starts for me. And then I come back from Paris, I present the entire inspiration to my team, and then we go to work. And you know, we usually have design meetings every single week. We have one tomorrow, and we're just now in the beginning phases of fall 10, and there's a lot of pressure because you know you're only as good as your last season, and if you don't perform at retail as well as you did the season before, then the money, the open to buy, the amount that they're going to give you for the purchase of your collection is going to be less. So you're only as good as the last season that you do. It's a lot of pressure, but it's if you're passionate about it and you love what you do, it's all you think about. I mean, it's what drives me to get up every morning and go to work and to enjoy and to love what I do. Yes. I don't, actually. We do a lot of charity events throughout the country. I've done shows at the Ritz-Carlton in Atlanta. I did one at the W Hotel in Dallas. I've done tons of runway shows, but in New York Fashion Week I don't. And honestly, it's because of the cost. I just I don't have that kind of money yet. And and that's a basic show at one of the tents is $65,000–$70,000 automatically. And I mean, it's a great thing if you can afford to do it, and it's a great thing for PR. But for me, it's more about identifying who my customer is and actually inviting the buyers into my showroom, into my world. I like to create I serve wine, I serve champagne, I have hors d'oeuvres, and it's more like a great date. If you come into my showroom, it's more about the experience, the whole entire experience of what it is to be in the Hilton Hollis showroom. Anyone else? Yeah. I definitely do. I mean, accessories are definitely the next step. Again, I've already started kind of looking at how to make all that happen. And about 7 years ago, I met someone out of Italy who does handbags and shoes for Prada and Dolce & Gabbana. And she's definitely on my list of people to contact when that all happens. Licensing is really the next step for our company. That's another thing I should mention. As a designer, be sure to own the rights to your name. I can't tell you how many people that I know of who have gotten to situations where they've signed over their lives to these mega corporations. The way my company runs is I have my parent company, which is Hilton Hollis Designs Incorporated, which is solely owned by me, and I actually lease my name to Hilton Hollis International, which is the company that creates my collection. So there's, as a designer, you have to be really business savvy and don't get yourself into a situation where you can't use your own name. And you have to have a very good attorney to look at all that for you, and someone who specializes in fashion, because a normal attorney won't necessarily know exactly how all that works. Anything else? Actually, all my clothes are produced in Hong Kong. My business partner is in Hong Kong. She's had a factory in Hong Kong for 35 years that her parents started, and luckily they get the American mentality and they understand what it is that American consumer wants. They do a lot of work for European brands and Australian brands. So, anything else? Yeah, definitely. Thanks, guys.